They fight the Hindus, they fight the Jews. Who will they fight next? Just watch the news. And when our leaders near and far and near see them fighting, they say, bring them here. It's right. It's another episode of This Week in Jihad and another... Oh, yikes, I did it again.
What?
The YouTube was on, so I started hearing it. But it is gone now. All is
Happens
well.
to all of us, Robert. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Happens to everyone. I've done that probably 50 times.
Well, that's pretty much every time I ever look at the YouTube before the show for me. But anyway, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. There is more jihad. There is jihad this week, David, in Oklahoma City. And you got to wonder what's happening in Oklahoma City. Do you remember some years ago there was a guy there, a convert to Islam, who called himself Yakim Israel, who beheaded one of his co-workers?
Does not ring a bell, but that's mainly because I've heard stories like that hundreds of times by this point. So they all kind of
Yes.
blur together.
Indeed. And so now we have Nasir Ahmad Tawhidi, who just was brought over from Afghanistan on a special immigrant visa. The special immigrant visas are special visas that are given to Afghans who helped American troops over in Afghanistan in the past few years. And so this is a guy...
Robert, you don't need to continue. We know how this is going to end. This guy really loves America by now because America rescued him from that Sharia compliant hellhole. His heart has melted, and he is a proud American, loving his fellow Americans, loving the American system. We already know where this is going. You can skip to the next one, Robert. Skip to the next one. We know how this ends.
Yeah, well, you left out the AK-47 and the plans to carry out a major jihad massacre on election day. And what's noteworthy is, David, that his family was involved. It appears that he, his juvenile co-conspirator brother-in-law lives with his parents and his 5 siblings. And in any case, he had liquidated his assets. He was ready to die. He was ready to take his family members with him. And so I got to ask you, David, what went wrong here? Why wasn't he exactly what you were describing? A grateful migrant and friend of the United States.
I don't know, because that's what you would expect when someone does something to really help you. You normally show gratitude and don't want to go on a killing spree. So, Robert, the only possible explanation is that this man came to the United States filled with gratitude, and then he started watching This Week in Jihad and following your website and got the crazy idea from you that Islam calls for violence and jihad and terror and the violent subjugation of the entire world. So shame on you again, Robert,
That
for
must
giving
be it.
these guys the idea.
I am hardly sorry, David. There he is. There's Nasser Tawhidi himself doing the
Even
one finger ISIS salute.
he even grew out his beard exactly like yours.
Yeah, that's right. Look at that. Wow. Except I've got more of the mustache. For
Yeah,
some
well,
reason, he
he's got a
trimmed
weak
his upper
mustache.
lip.
Yeah, he's got
Why
a weak
did
mustache.
Why did he trim his upper lip, David?
Um, maybe he doesn't know how to pray properly. So instead of getting a zabiba, he like rubbed his mustache off by friction on the floor.
Yes, that's I love that. That's a good one. But what's the real answer for those who may not know?
Yeah, the real answer, ladies and gentlemen, is that Islam calls for the violent subjugation of the entire world, even when it comes to specific places like the United States in the Islamic thinking. In the Islamic thinking, what's weird, Robert, is I figured this out just from reading the Muslim sources, and once I was thinking back then because I lived in New York, but I was thinking about all these terrorist attacks and people kept targeting New York and so on. This is after 9/11 and so on. And I was trying to think, hey, how would these guys justify killing so many just random civilians and even Muslims in there? How would they justify that? And then I would see it in the Muslim sources. But Muhammad said, of course, you have passages like Surah 5, verse 33, that the penalty for causing mischief in a Muslim land or waging war against Allah is death. So that's a death sentence or crucifixion or dismemberment or something like that, depending on the severity. But if you're making mischief in a Muslim land, then you are under a death sentence. And so, are places like the United States, according to Islam, making mischief in Muslim lands? The answer is a resounding yes. But you think, okay, that's the government and the military. It's not like regular people. Wrong, because Muhammad taught his followers that the person who funds a jihadi or a fighter gets the same reward as the jihadi or the fighter. In other words, if I'm not going out to battle, you're going out to battle, but I pay for your armor and I buy your gun for you, and then you go out and fight, I get the same reward that you get. And so applied to places like America, yes, the government and the military are the ones making mischief in Muslim lands, but the people who fund them get an equal reward. Who are the people who are funding the U.S. government and the U.S. military? Well, that's everyday, ordinary U.S. citizens, including Muslims who are part of the system. So I figured that out just from reading the sources. I was like, oh, that's the justification. And when I said it in a presentation out in California, and a guy came up to me afterwards and he goes, that's exactly what Osama bin Laden said. What you just said is exactly what Osama bin Laden said when he had to justify killing civilians. And so I guess great minds think alike, Robert.
You're the Osama bin Laden of Christian apologetics. Anyway, the upper lip thing, people are asking, it's because Muhammad, there's a hadith in which Muhammad says the Jews and Christians grow out their mustache and shave their beards. So you must not be like
them. You were talking about that. I thought you were talking about the terrorist attack. You asked me to explain. Now, what's the real answer? I thought you meant the real answer for the terrorist attack, not for the mustache.
Okay,
it
all works.
I withdraw my response. My response was completely irrelevant to the question you asked.
This is not a court of law, so it's all good because they need that information, David. But yes, so Muhammad says, trim your mustaches and let your beards grow long. And that's why you get the Amish look so much in the Islamic world, especially for true believers.
By the way, people don't realize how creepy this is and how obviously obsessive compulsive Muhammad was. He had some serious issues, at least the Muhammad we read about in the Muslim sources, Robert. But
yes,
he had his followers on a schedule of how frequently you had to pluck your armpit hairs and pull out your pubic hairs and stuff. He has these guys, and every such and such day you have to do this, and then make sure you step into the bathroom with your left foot first and do this. Like, what a nutcase, man. But yeah, he had these guys on a complete grooming schedule, not the grooming that we hear about that they do with 12-year-old girls and stuff, but different kind of grooming. This guy was a complete metrosexual who wanted all his followers to be a band of metrosexuals.
Yeesh. All right, now you mentioned something actually in your response that was stricken from the record. You mentioned about jihad of funding and how it's the same as jihad of warfare. So I thought an interesting sidelight to that was Khalid Mashal, who appeared this week out of his secure location in Doha, in Qatar, to give an address. And he actually spoke to that issue. And he said this: jihad by money is great, but it is no longer enough. We want jihad with weapons and the sacrifice of lives. Now, I read that and I thought, well, okay, why is he still alive? If he wants jihad with weapons and the sacrifice of lives, why hasn't he sacrificed his own life? And there is yet again an explanation from Muhammad's traditions as to why that is. Why might that be, David?
Well, Muhammad was asked what's the best type of jihad. And he said the jihad of the man whose horse gets his horse gets wounded and he gets wounded and so on. So he's talking about bloody combat. It's a superior form of jihad.
There you go. So also Muhammad says if he it was up to him, he would sacrifice. He would
Hmm.
go and get killed in jihad and
Hmm.
come back and get killed in jihad the next day
Hmm.
and just
Yeah.
keep doing it. But
Hmm.
Allah wanted him instead to stay alive and run things. And I call it Mashal in his luxury apartments in Doha
Yeah.
feels the same way.
Yeah, and so Muhammad said that it's a superior form of jihad, and when they'd asked him, he said, "Because we can't take everybody, and if I go, then I will have to leave others behind, and no real Muslim's going to want to stay behind if I'm out fighting. He'll be ashamed, and therefore, even though that's the best type of jihad, I have to stay back here. I'm gonna hang back. I'm gonna hang back for a bit. You guys go out and fight." And
Yep,
I'm gonna hang back and go bone my child bride.
there you go. That's probably what Khalid Mashal is up to right now in Qatar. Well, actually, no, he's not doing that now, David, because we know he's watching the program. Good evening, Khalid. And he's probably not happy with us, but what can he do, really? No,
It is amazing because it's not just him. It's like your Muhammad Hijabs, your Ali Dawas, all these Dawa guys going around and talking about martyrdom and beheading the infidels, and they're sitting there making videos in like the nicest restaurants I've ever seen in my life. They're sitting there
yeah.
making discussions that, yes, so this is why I was going to do this to the Jews and blah, blah, blah, blah, blah. And this is why with martyrs. And yes, with martyrs, we're strong warrior religion. Pass the sauce. Pass the sauce for this roasted duck. This delicious roasted duck at this 5-star restaurant. Yes, we are all about jihad, cowards.
Yes, indeed, they are. All right, we got more jihad in Israel, of course. Full on jihad against Israel. And it's not just Hamas, it's not just Hezbollah, it's not just Iran, it's not just the Houthis, it's also the Israeli Arabs in Israel and also the Palestinian Arabs outside Israel, but right next to it, or in the allegedly occupied territories. So we had a couple of Muslims come from Hebron and they murdered 7 people in random attacks in Israel. And before they went on their shooting spree, David, they prayed in a mosque. Now, why would they pray in a mosque right before they were about to misunderstand Islam?
I don't know. Maybe they were hoping for some real guidance to guide them away from that. But I mean, it would sound like they couldn't find any. I don't know. That's weird. It's a tough situation. I'm trying to come up with a completely peaceful misunderstander version of this, but
Yeah, it's a real conundrum. Who knows, really? Who can say?
yeah. But how many times over the years, Robert, do we hear about a massacre right after guys get out of mosque?
Friday afternoon, often a time for riots, jihad, Muslim mobs, jihad massacres. Very common that these things happen on Friday afternoon. Is that the Quran you're eating?
Nope, that is a cough drop, sir.
Ah,
I have to say,
well,
Rob, it is actually it's a really really bad situation, right? You've already got a war going on, and I've been to Israel a couple times, and it is really shocking how well the Israeli government holds things together. If you're in the old city of Jerusalem, that's a Muslim majority area. The old city of Jerusalem is Muslim majority. You got Muslim majority. You've got Christians right beside them. You've got Jews right beside them. You got the Muslim quarter, the Christian quarter, the Jewish quarter, the Armenian quarter, and somehow everyone's walking by each other. You're walking down a road, and you are walking by women in full burqas. You're walking by rabbis, fully decked out Orthodox rabbis. You're walking by Christians carrying a cross and so on. Um, how are they able to hold this together? And here's what really sucks: if you have enough of the Muslim inhabitants of Israel launching terrorist attacks, what's going to happen? The non-Muslims are going to get increasingly suspicious of them and think, "Oh, this isn't about Hamas." And so I can't trust. I might not be able to trust the guy down the street since these guys keep launching terrorist attacks. Their suspicion is going to raise, the hostility is going to increase, and so on. And that's what these guys want, right? These guys, that's what they want, right? We're going to go stab a bunch of people, kill a bunch of people, shoot a bunch of people. These attacks keep happening in Israel. Why? They want the reaction to set them so that they can say to Muslims, look, they're attacking you. They're attacking you. Look at this. You see, the Jews hate you, and so on. And anyway, it's any situation you get in where people aren't killing and slaughtering each other, jihadis go into that situation, start attacking someone to try and get a reaction out of that person, so that then you have a back and forth, and then the little bit of harmony you had breaks down. Their goal is to cause chaos and destruction wherever they go, and we're supposed to look at it as this good force for good and freedom and so on. It's absolute nonsense, demonic.
And that's already happening in Israel in the middle of this war, because we had an Israeli citizen named Ahmad Jabarin, who is known as one of the Israeli Arabs. They are full citizens of Israel. There are representatives that serve in the Knesset who are Muslim Arabs, Israeli Arabs. And this guy went on a stabbing spree in Hadera, in northern Israel, or north central Israel, in 4 different locations, went around stabbing people. And this is, I think, an indication, would you not agree, that the jihad mindset can come up anywhere where there are Muslims. And it doesn't really matter what rights they have in society or lack thereof, or how rich or how poor they are, or how educated or not educated they are. Can happen anywhere.
Yeah, and I've been bringing that point up for years, namely that wherever Islam goes, you have this minority that wants to just randomly start massacring people. And you say, but that's the minority. Okay, well, I'm still concerned about a minority of people who are going to kill and slaughter me at random and slit my throat. That's still a concern. That's still a concern. But the real issue is that the majority cannot control these guys. Assuming the majority is legitimately does not approve of going around slaughtering people, they still cannot stop the people who do it. And so
Indeed.
I just want to ask the Muslims who tell us, oh, no, you shouldn't criticize Islam because it's a minority of people who are going to slit your throat and slaughter your family and rape these girls and so on. It's a minority. Okay, what can you do to stop the minority? Nothing. We can't do anything. We're completely helpless. Okay, then I'll deal with it my way. And you won't like it because I'm going to be blasting away your religion. Until you come up with some other way of dealing with it, do not complain of the way we deal with it.
Well,
Because it's crazy. It's crazy. We deal with things peacefully through criticism and so on, and they whine about that. And what they really mean is, just keep your mouth shut, even though we can't do anything about it. Just keep your mouth shut until these guys slit your throat. But I saw you had an awesome transition that I accidentally cut you off.
Yeah, I have an awesome transition, because blasting away at their religion, you got to wonder. We had earlier, just a few minutes ago, the story about the couple of jihadis in Israel who went around killing people after praying in a mosque. And then there's also this story out of Lebanon where Israel hit a Hezbollah command center that was located inside a mosque. And so you got to wonder, they don't say, they tell you don't attack the religion, don't criticize the religion, and yet again and again and again it seems as if there is something about their religion that leads them to do all this, and the jihadis make no secret of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it's this weird situation where, hey, within our religion, there's a minority of people who are actually going to carry out what it says against you, but there's a bunch of us who aren't going to carry out those commands. Therefore, you should not have a problem with the religion commanding those things, because most of us won't actually follow it. Yeah, but what you'll do is you'll still try to silence people who point it out. And so what's the solution here? We just keep our mouths shut, and you always have people going around slaughtering people, and it never ends. Okay,
that's the idea.
No,
That's what they want.
Not going for it.
All right. Hey, look at this guy, David. Does that not look like Vocab Malone has taken his act? He's really done it, ladies and gentlemen. He's been playing Muhammad for so long, and now he has gone to Jordan and become a real Islamic scholar.
If
But
that background were a black curtain, I would you could put "Welcome to Muhammad's Boom Boom Room" on the bottom of that.
well, maybe you can get this guy into the Boom Boom Room. This is the Jordanian. This is not actually Vocab Malone. With apologies to Vocab, it is Jordanian Islamic scholar Sheikh Allah Jaber. And he is in the news this week because he is praising October 7th, praising the massacre of 1,200 Israelis. You see that actually summed up in the screenshot here, where he is referring to the holy and glorious crossing on the blessed seventh. That is, the holy and glorious crossing of the Hamas jihadis into Israel to carry out their massacre. Now, I got to ask you, of all the Christian preachers that you know, how many of them have ever called a massacre of any people holy and glorious?
I'm not familiar with that happening.
And yet, how many times have we seen Muslim clerics say something like what what Allah Jaber says here?
Pretty regularly, and I've seen it increasing as they become more unhinged. But I mean, keep in mind, guys, this is like the world. The world is changing after 9/11. After 9/11, you of course had some celebrations here and there, um, but what ended up and there were people who were caught and exposed for having two faces. They were publicly crying and saying, "Oh, this tragedy has nothing to do with Islam. We condemn this," and then behind closed doors were praising the martyrs who carried out the attack. So you had that sort of thing. But keep in mind, these guys had to keep their mouths shut, right? You were trying to portray Islam as peaceful, and you were trying to portray the Muslims who carried out the attacks as not legitimate Muslims, right? They didn't want to brag about that sort of thing. It would reveal too much about your beliefs and your religion. The October 7th massacre, you had fewer people die than on September 11th, but considering the United States is massively, massively, massively, massively, insanely bigger than Israel with a massively bigger population, the October 7th attacks were actually like a bunch of 9/11s all at once. And it wasn't just flying a plane into a building, the buildings collapse and kill a bunch of people. I mean, they're raping and torturing and using nail guns to torture women while raping them and so on, and taking hostages back. And so, really, really horrible situation. And everywhere I go now, I see them praising this. And the only good from that is we're seeing people's true colors, and
Yes.
people are looking at that going, "Whoa, you guys actually love this stuff? You actually love all this stuff? I'm starting to understand what Israel is up against if you guys think that this stuff is good."
Yep, and that's what we're getting. Uh, there's going to be a lot of that in this week's episode because, of course, Monday was the first anniversary, and so a lot of these stories are from Monday. For example, we had a Houthi leader over in Yemen. The leader of the Ansar Allah movement said that October 7th was great because it revitalized the culture of jihad. And he didn't say anything about how that means taking the kids to school on time and all that stuff that
That's
Kerr was
weird.
telling us a few years
Where's
back.
Care? Care needs to go. Why does Care always correct us and not these terrorists?
Ha! Why indeed?
Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird?
It's
Robert,
very weird.
Robert, if there was some guy screaming, because of this Bible verse, I have to go kill and slaughter as many people as possible, and people go, what is up with that guy? That guy's a problem. My inclination would not be to attack the people who are reacting to this guy. My inclination would be, hey, I need to go correct this guy who's doing it, this guy who's advocating it. That would be my focus. It's weird. CARE's focus is never on the actual jihadis. It's always on critics of jihad. It's weird. It's almost like deep down they know what they're doing.
You might almost get the idea that they are in favor of the jihadis. But surely that's inconceivable. Surely not. Inconceivable.
Starting to sound like some weird conspiracy theorist, Robert.
Yes. Where is this guy? I know I got a picture of him. My system is so much better than it used to be, but it still needs some way to find the pictures once I've got them. Anyway, we might just have to do without. Anyway, Nasruddin Amer, who is a spokesman for the Houthis, he said, I thought this was very interesting because, of course, nobody thinks of it this way except us and a few other people. But he said, even if they dropped all their weapons on us, we will not back down because this has to do with our religious principles, which are not affected by the number of casualties or the fear of retaliation. This is a desired goal, to become martyrs for the sake of Allah. So he's saying this has to do, the war against Israel has to do with his religious principles. And yet that's the one thing that every last Western policymaker and analyst ignores entirely and assumes that it's about land or about sovereignty or some combination thereof. But here this guy says this has to do with our religious principles, and nobody pays any attention.
It is fascinating to watch this back and forth for the more than 2 decades now between jihadis and Western politicians. The jihadis say, hey, we're killing you because of our religion. And Western politicians and journalists go, stop lying. Your real reason is politics. No, we assure you, we are really, really, really coming to kill you because of our religion. We can quote you chapter and verse. We can give you entire manifestos going through this. We can give you endless commentaries. We know exactly why we're doing it, and we're telling you why we're doing it. No, you're doing it because of climate change, you silly gooses. That's why you're really doing it. And they just go back and forth, and it's like no matter what they say or how clearly they say it, you have Western politicians and journalists going, no, let us explain the real reason. Don't let the jihadi explain his reasons. He doesn't know what he's talking about. We know his real motivations. Climate change.
Yep. So here we have Hossein Salami, the commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps in Iran. That's what it's called, the IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps. You will often see it in the Western press as the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps, but it's actually the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, and that's the guy who is the chief of it, Mr. Salami himself.
Is that an old picture, Robert? Is that an old picture from an old video?
As far as I know, it's new because he was talking to Dr. Pezeshkian, the new president of Iran, about how they had launched that missile attack on Israel just a few days ago.
I was asking if it's an old picture because I'm impressed that this guy has a phone upside his head and a microphone in front of him. Like I wouldn't want. If I were him, I would worry about. I'd be avoiding anything that could hold a couple of ounces of explosives.
Indeed. Well, Mr. Salami, he says. He's on the phone there. You can see, no doubt, a secure phone with Pezeshkian, the president of Iran, and this is what he says: "In the name of Allah, the merciful, the compassionate, fight them, and Allah will punish them at your hands. Put them to shame, help you overcome them, and soothe the hearts of the believers."
Mm-hmm.
That's
what
the
he does.
Quran, chapter 9, verses 14 and 15, and that's the first thing that Hossein Salami said to Dr. Pezeshkian when he told him they're sending missiles at Israel. So the first thing he did, David, was fire off the missiles and tell them, we're doing this because the Quran says, fight them and Allah will punish them at your hands. So here again we see, this is a religious conflict.
And we also see Allah did a bang-up job of crushing the Israelis with those missiles.
Yes, Allah did not really punish them at their hands. So once again, the Quran is proven wrong, but nobody seems to notice.
Oh, Yeah, they won't admit it. They may thump their chest, Robert, but they're noticing. They're noticing. Hey, wait, Allah's on our side, and we lose every single battle we're ever in. See, Robert, we don't have this idea that God is on your side if you go out and start killing people and so on. We don't have that. Muslims do. Muslims do have that. That is in their beliefs, that if you are the one who is in the right, Allah is not going to allow you to lose in battle. If you lose a battle, it's because you did something wrong. Okay, what if you guys lose 50 battles in a row? If you guys lose 50 battles in a row, don't complain about the Jews. It's not the Jews' fault. It's your fault. You're doing something wrong. If you were right with Allah, you wouldn't be losing. So why do you keep doing the same thing over and over? It's like Allah is saying, guys, how can I make this any clearer to you giant morons? I'm not with you in your fight against the Jews. You just can't.
It just
Yes,
makes them more fanatical. They think, well, we still haven't pleased Allah. We got to please Allah even more. Yep.
We have to dial it up.
Okay, I got a great story here out of Iran since we were just in Iran with salami. Where's this clown? Bacon? I don't know. Salami's bad enough.
Yeah, salami and bacon.
Salami and bacon seems like a little bit of overkill, no?
No, not a meat lover's pizza.
Oh, I see. Maybe, maybe salami was on the phone ordering one of those. What is this? Man, my system is breaking down again, David. All right. Anyway, yes.
I was going to say you can actually have there's a little window you can actually pull up all your graphics beforehand, and you just have to click on them.
Well, I have them all here, but they're so small I can't see which ones they are. Anyway, I'll have to figure that out. But I found it. This is Mustafa Karami, and Mustafa Karami is an Iranian sheikh who was preaching right after the killing by Israeli forces of Hassan Nasrallah. And the wild thing about this guy, he teaches at a Shiite seminary in Iran. So he is very serious Islamic scholar. And he said that it was not any human agency that allowed the Israelis to kill Hassan Nasrallah. They did it with the help of the jinn.
So the jinn overpowered Allah.
Nasrallah. Yes. The jinn have more power than Allah. Yeah, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Quran says in chapter 6, verse 128, that the assembly of the jinn has seduced many among mankind. And in 6:112, in this way we have appointed an adversary to every prophet, Satans of mankind and jinn, who inspire in one another plausible discourse through guile. But I don't know, does the Quran, I can't think of any place where the Quran says the jinn will actually help the foes of the Muslims kill people.
Well, you have the jinns teaching people how to use this magic and so on to influence events. It's just interesting to me that you could think that Allah is on your side, and He's with you against Israel. But oops, Israel's got the power of the jinn.
Yep.
Like wait a minute, guys. Assuming what you're saying is correct, that Israel used the power of jinn to defeat you. Allah couldn't stop that sort of thing? Like really? Yeah. Allah's looking all kinds of weak. The only thing weaker looking right now than Allah is the Ummah. It's His Ummah.
Yep. Speaking of the Ummah, this is a Turkish poet. His name is İsmet Özel. And I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong because it's full of umlauts, his name, you know. But the Turks are just going to have to deal with it. Anyway, İsmet Özel, he says, Muslims are terrorists. The first duty of Muslims is to be terrorists. Kafirs should be afraid of Muslims. If they are not afraid, then a Muslim is not a Muslim. Now, he's twisting and hijacking his peaceful religion, isn't he? Is he not?
I just don't. I seriously can't figure out what planet these guys live on. Guys, there are 2 billion of you on this planet. You keep trying to go after a couple million Jews and they crush you over and over again and make you look absolutely weak and pathetic. Sunni, Shia, it doesn't matter. They just keep crushing you. What do you what and the longer you go on like this, the more pathetic you seem. You seem like a weak, pathetic joke. Yes, you can run out, no, stab you in the neck, random. Yeah, any idiot can do that. Any idiot can do that. You guys are the weakest. You're the my goodness. What's weaker than the Ummah? Find anything. The weakest T on the planet is massively stronger than the Ummah. It's a joke. It's pathetic. And anyway, Robert, there is the bright side to all of this, and that's all chest thumping aside. There are lots of Muslims who are looking around and realizing this. That was on Muhammad Ijab's list when a couple of years ago he took a poll and asked Muslims specifically the question, when you doubt Islam, what is it that is causing your doubts? What is the source of your doubts about whether your religion is true? The top answer was moral problems with Muhammad. But also another high-ranking answer was the weakness of the Ummah. Like, we're supposed to be dominating, subjugating all these people, and we're the weakest. 2 billion of us, and we just get crushed, and we have to run to everyone else's nation. Please, sir, may we have some more? Please give us more handouts, because we have to flee from our Sharia-compliant hellhole. It's the best we can do with our own religion. And this is, they want to thump their chest and they want to posture and so on. At the end of the day, that's eating them up inside. And I say, good. Let's keep it going.
Well, it's funny because I got queued up here the story about a guy doing just that, fleeing to a non-Muslim country and pleading for help. This is a story about Mohammed Shahzeb Khan, who is an international student from Pakistan who went to study in Canada. And when he went to study in Canada, he started to plot to slaughter as many Jews as possible. He was hoping to do it on Monday, on the anniversary of the October 7th Jihad attack. He was going to slaughter massive numbers of Jews in Canada. Meanwhile, he was claiming refugee status in Canada. Now, David, he was saying that he needed refugee status in Canada because he's gay. And so I was thinking, man, this guy's clever because he knows how to play the system in the West.
Right. That's what I'd say.
He's an ISIS jihadi, but he wants to come to Canada and kill Jews. He knows that they'll be soft-hearted and let him in if he says that he's gay.
If I were walking into the immigration office, I'd walk in there just like decked out like Queers for Palestine. Yes, I may be a jihadi, but I'm fabulous. I'd been rolling like that, man.
Show them your Barbra Streisand collection.
Little tiny hat on, rainbow everything, decked out, makeup on, stuff. Let me in. They're like, yes, bring him in.
That's true. So he certainly knew how to work the system, but unfortunately for him, his plot was uncovered. Meanwhile, we have, we have some other violent jihad in other places. We had, of course, the usual sexual assaults. We had a man who raped a woman to death. His name, of course, was Muhammad. He raped a woman to death in a West London park. In France, we had a group of 7 people sexually assault 2 tourists in Paris. 4 of them were arrested, and they turned out to be all Muslim migrants.
Shocker.
Yep. We had a Muslim migrant in Bergamo in Italy, and he was from Egypt, preaching terror on the web and plotting to blow up a church in the center of the city. He posted photos of himself armed and ready for action against the infidels. In Nigeria, I'm going through these things quickly, David, so we'll have time. In Nigeria, we had a young man named Salisu Bala. And Salisu Bala decided to convert to Christianity whereupon his Muslim family said, well, we respect your decision and we support you and we love you in every way. And they all went out for dinner and had a very nice evening. But actually, they tried to kill him.
Hmm.
Why did they try to kill him, David?
That's one of life's great mysteries, Robert. Why does anyone want to kill?
Why indeed?
Why? This is the human predicament, Robert.
Well, I would expect that it might have something to do, what do you think about this, with the death penalty for apostasy?
Oh, well, yeah, there's that. If you're going to bring up all these like commands of Muhammad,
Yeah, I know it's bad of me. I really should break the habit. Anyway, Washington State, we had the Hamas-linked Council on American Islamic Relations. They celebrated October 7th anniversary by claiming that Muslims were the true victims of the
well,
October 7th attacks. They know how to
yeah,
play the system too.
yeah, we've. I mean, you can't blame them for that, Robert. That's they've been preparing for that one for years because after every single terrorist attack, Muslims were the true victims. It brings to mind that. Hang on. I just have to look it up. I just have to look it up. Norm Macdonald,
Oh yeah.
ISIS, the famous Norm Macdonald, Norm Macdonald joke. The late great Norm Macdonald in 2016 said. What terrifies me is if ISIS were to detonate a nuclear device and kill 50 million Americans. Imagine the backlash against peaceful Muslims, right?
Yep.
It's like that. I mean, he's not even really involved in the discussion, but we had seen that over and over and over again. That after every attack, oh no, a Muslim killed a bunch of Christians, or a Muslim killed a bunch of Jews. Think about the poor backlash against Muslims. Everyone, this is a time to focus on Islamophobia and to pass new legislation against Islamophobia. It's like, how are you guys the victims of every attack carried out against non-Muslims? You're somehow the victims, no matter what
Yep.
the situation is.
It's amazing. But yep, you're right. It happens every time. And the deception is in other areas as well. Our friend Zakir Naik appeared in the news this week. He's wanted in several countries, but he fled to Pakistan where he is a hero.
Smart.
And he did one of his things, one of his events, where he was a very courageous young woman stood up and asked him about pedophilia, asked him about child marriage in Islam.
Hmm.
All right, and get this. Dr. Zakir Naik, the great Islamic apologist, he answered, there is no mention of pedophilia in the Quran or any Islamic scripture. Now, I thought that's one of the most outstandingly dishonest, disingenuous, misleading, and yet superficially accurate answers I've ever seen. It was diabolically clever. Because it's true, there's no mention of pedophilia in the Quran, but what is there mention of?
Marrying, having sex with, divorcing, and passing on to the next guy, prepubescent girls. It's
There
Surah
you go.
65, Surah 65, verse 4, ladies and gentlemen. Look up if you don't understand what it means, look up the commentaries. Ibn Abbas, Jalalain, Ibn Kathir, Tabari. Pick one, pick any classical Muslim commentary. They tell you this is about marrying a prepubescent girl, having sex with the prepubescent girl, divorcing the prepubescent girl. How long does the prepubescent girl have to wait before another guy can marry her and have sex with her? She has to wait 3 months. She has to wait 3 months. There's a 3 month waiting period in between pedophiles who are banging this prepubescent little girl. And of course, that's exactly what it means in the Quran. And then we have the example of Muhammad himself, who had sex with a prepubescent 9-year-old girl. And he is the pattern of conduct according to the Quran, Surah 33, verse 21.
There you go. All right, one more outstanding, outrageous deception, extraordinary lie. The guy on the left in this picture is Yassin Malik, who was the head of the Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front, which is an Islamic Jihad terror group. And there he is with former Indian Prime Minister Manmohan Singh in happier days. But now he is in prison for funding jihad terror activities. And he says that he thinks that his group, the Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front, ought to be removed from the ban ought to be removed on it. It ought to be allowed to operate legally again, or at least it ought to be not declared illegal, because he says he has embraced Gandhian ways. Gandhi, of course, being the Indian leader who very famously preached peaceful means of resistance against British colonialism. What do you think the chances are that a hardcore Islamic Jihad group leader has actually embraced Gandhian ways?
The weird part is, I think they would be more successful if they engaged in passive resistance, but it's just not Islam that is thoroughly un-Islamic.
Indeed. All right, so let's go to Somalia, where we had Islamic jihadis target government forces. Yes.
Hang on. Somalia?
Somalia, Horn of Africa, David.
Do you have another story besides Somalia that you could turn to for 1 second?
Do I have another story besides
Somalia? I have two Somalis in my house right now. I could get them to comment.
Well, bring the Somalis in, David. But in any case, sure. How about Nigeria? The
I'll be right back.
Hizbah. Oh, you're going to come back? I'll go to this myself. The Islamic police, the Islamic jurisprudence police in Kano State, known as the Hizbah, they are Sharia police. They have closed down 30 betting parlors in the state of Kano in Nigeria, where people were betting. Now, I'm not saying that betting is something that people should get involved in. These things can be very addictive. Their lives can be ruined and so on. But it's noteworthy that this is being forbidden based on the Quran, chapter 5, verse 90, which says that gambling as well as alcohol are sins within Islam. And the thing is, though, that the people who are gambling in these betting parlors in Nigeria were not all Muslims. There are a lot of non-Muslims still in Nigeria. But it's interesting to note that, as we've noted many times on this program, it is a common thing, at least it used to be, for Islamic apologists in the West to claim, to insist that Sharia only had to do with Muslims and that it never applied to non-Muslims. And yet we see it applying to non-Muslims again and again. And this is an example of that. So David has some visitors from Somalia, and I believe they're going to be coming in. The story we have out of Somalia was out of Shalanbud in the lower Shabelle region, where Ash-Shabaab, the jihad terror group, tangled with government forces. And they didn't disclose how many people were killed, but many people were killed, many were injured. And in any case, hello, folks. Robert Spencer here. I co-host this show with David. And so tell us about your experiences. Tell us who you are and about your experiences in Somalia.
Hey, 1 second, Robert. See if we're getting an echo, because I unplugged it. I normally wear headphones, but you get an echo when you talk?
I don't hear an echo. Not over here.
Okay.
I didn't hear it from you either.
Audience can tell you.
There's an echo. I heard it there.
Sometimes it'll pick up after a second.
Okay, I think it might be okay now. I didn't hear it the last time you spoke.
All right, what are you guys sitting there for?
Good evening.
Wow.
Good morning.
Robert had a story out of Somalia, and I said, "Hey, I got two Somalis right here."
It's
Hi,
really
Robert.
hello. It's
Hello.
really a routine story about Ash-Shabaab activity. Have you
Yes.
encountered these people? And I mean, I hope you haven't encountered them very closely, but have you encountered Ash-Shabaab in Somalia?
No, physically we never encountered with them by grace of God. But we know many people who encountered them and been injured or harassed or intimidated by them.
And meanwhile, what are you up to? What have you been doing in Somalia?
No, we lived in Somalia as a Muslim in Somalia. 100% they call themselves Somali Muslims, Sunni Muslims. So we lived there and we grew up there. When civil war started, we left the country and came to Europe. So it was 30 years ago last we were in Somalia. But we raised up as Muslims. But by grace of God, we both, found Jesus, and we are follower of Christ now.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank
Yes.
God. So you've been living here for 30 years, but you are speaking with Somalis in the United States. Is that right?
Yeah, in the States now, we are in the States, but we speak with them, with Somalis everywhere they are, globally nowadays. Yeah.
Yes, we have a
Excellent.
TV called Somali Christian TV. We're reaching out to our people. We want them to come out from Islam and come to know the Lord Jesus Christ. He is the only way to salvation. So also we have your book, Robert
Oh,
Spencer,
thank you.
big thick one,
The,
and
the critical
critical. My
Quran.
Quran.
husband bought it long ago
Yeah,
when we
yeah.
come out, and he's reading that. And
It
yeah,
was very
thank you so
helpful.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you so
I
much.
got that too.
Oh, you
Oh,
have
yes,
that
that
too.
one.
Yes.
Yes.
We have that in our living room. Yes. And we read, we love you. Thank you so much what you're doing. But yeah, because we left Islam, we cannot go back to Somalia. And
see.
sadly, our country, and before the civil war, we did not have Al Shabaab, but later on, now we have Al Shabaab. And they're just making our country backward, not forward.
Yes.
So
We-
people living now with the burqa and so on. And yeah, it is very scary and not good.
We started a little bit, jumped the gun a little bit because we didn't get your names and the name of your organization and where people can find you and watch. You say you have videos, so could you please give everyone the information about where they can see your videos and find your work?
Yes, I am Shino. This is my wife, Shania Gabo. We are from Somalia. We are Somali Christians, used to be Muslims, but converted to Christianity. So, yeah, we evangelize Somali Muslims, and we have a media ministry. And, yeah, our social media name is called Somali Christian TV.
Yes, Somali Christian TV, and also David Wood. We've been his channel years ago. He's our brother, and because of him, the Lord used in him big way. He used our Lord Jesus Christ in my husband. He was still Muslim when I met in social media, David Wood. So he's the reason my husband even left Islam. But praise God, now we have Somali Christian TV or Somali Christian TV ex-Muslims. That's the English channel. And yeah, praise God, Somalis are living Islam every day because of we are reaching out our community. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's great. So we talk about jihad on this show every week, and
Yes.
it's encouraging to see that people are pushing back, that it's not just a steady advance. It's easy to get that impression. When we do this show, many people contact me and say it's fun because David and I crack jokes and we are lighthearted about it, but at the same time, it's a very serious thing. It looks as if they're advancing everywhere. And so, can you tell us a little bit more about people leaving? What makes them want to leave Islam?
Yes, some of them, when they see, the ugly face of Islam, like what Al-Shabaab are doing, that is what waking them up. Is this the religion we are following? Because they have to, and to do such, horrifying things in the name of the religion. So they may say, if this is the case, we not following this religion. And some of them, maybe they read the Bible and they may do comparison, Quran and the Bible.
Excellent.
And many of them, the Lord himself shows, himself in dreams and visions. And then when they talk to, people like us or like, people who know Jesus, they will explain to them, and then they decide following Christ and leaving Islam behind.
Yeah, the Somali used to call themselves 100% Muslim Sunni, but sheikhs, the Somali sheikhs, imams, they are not coming now, and they're saying 24% of Somali youth are leaving Islam every year. So people are leaving to right and left, but because they have a fear. They cannot come out and say they left Islam. Even people who are in the West, in USA and Europe, they are all underground. Somalis who left Islam, who become Christians, they cannot come out. Even we have a lot of atheists, but they cannot say they left Islam because they will have, in harassment or persecution. Is real, because for us as well, we are Swedish citizen, we are European Somali Christian, but because we become believer and now we are calling our people come out from Islam, we moved house to house many times. So it's, even in Europe, our lives be in danger, but by the grace of God, we still carry on. But there's many thousands people who left Islam long ago when they have seen the ugly side, like Sheena said, but they cannot even say they left Islam. Their family think they're still Muslim. They're just under, because the Somalis are policing each other and controlling, and you don't have freedom to live. Even if you are in the West, they're just hiding.
That's true.
Somali
ahead,
society. Yeah, Somali society is a conservative society. So anyone who leaves Islam, it seems like betrayal of the country and the clan and the people. So it is a shame, and shame. They may shame the society, so
Yeah.
they cannot confess that they left Islam, but they may pretend to be there, but heartily they left Islam already. So we pray that the Lord gives them boldness, that they come out and confess the Lord and Savior.
Yeah.
Now, back in Somalia, are there Christians there?
Yeah, there are many Christians there, but they don't have church building or where to meet. And when they meet, they have to be very extremely careful because of the fear from underground. Yes, but there are many believers in everywhere in Somalia. There were a census which was made January this year by Somali Bible Society, and they accounted 197,000 Somali believers in Somalia.
In Somalia, yes.
Yeah, they didn't count people in diaspora in Europe and so on, but they encounter. So people can read the census on Somali Bible Society.
Yeah, but also Somalia is the most dangerous place to be as a Christian. He's always, if you look open doors, always is number 2 or number 3. Even this year, if you check, you will see Somalia is number 2.
Yeah. The world watch list of open doors. Somalia always number 2 mostly. Where Muslims where Christians are persecuted. Very dangerous place.
So the Somali Christians, 197,000 people, and it's all underground. There are no church buildings, no open worship, nothing. Is that right?
Yes, because they are afraid of the extremist Al-Shabaab who target.
Is there any way that the people who are watching this can, aside from praying for them, which we should all do, but is there any way that we can get any help to those people? Do you have any way of contacting them or supporting them?
Yeah, we know some of them, but they are scattered everywhere. We stand with them by prayer, and anywhere we can support, and anywhere we can help, we do so. And other organizations, Christian organizations, are doing the same as well.
Yes, and if anyone want to know more about Somalia or Somali Christian, they can contact us, Somali Christian TV or Somali Christian TV ex Muslims. So and also Facebook, if anyone using Somali Christian TV, we have even our number there. We put on our number, so anyone Google our names, Shania Sheena Gabo, they can find us easily. Also, they can contact us and we will update. Yeah, we have a lot of connections, but they are all underground. We cannot talk so much and on publicly on the camera. Yes.
Of course. Well, I appreciate very much you telling us all this here. I'm sure this is a surprise to a lot of people, as well as a great encouragement. And so I praise God for your journey and for all that He's done in your lives, and for all the good that you have brought to the world in helping people out of this. Let me ask you one other thing before we go. Ethiopia is right next door. And
Yes.
Ethiopia has a very strong Christian tradition. And even there are Islamic traditions about how you conquer and Islamize the whole world, but leave Ethiopia alone. I don't think they're going to do that, but in any case, there are some Muslims who will even say that. But has Ethiopia have Ethiopian Christians been able to preach to Somalis at all, or would that just get them killed?
Yeah, it is very, very danger in Somalia. It's very danger to preach Christianity or evangelize Christianity in Somalia. So if they see you or recognize that you're doing something else about Islam or Muslim, so they will attack you, or they will target that person as well. So Ethiopians are also, they are very careful. They are very, very afraid of the repercussion of if they do, or implications which come up after evangelizing Somalis.
Yeah.
So the best way is us
Social
who
media.
are same culture, people
Yes.
who know the culture, who know the language, who know people. Use
Social media.
social media will be amazing.
Yeah.
And we pray that the Lord uses those who are
Yeah.
who are on the ground as well, that they will be bold and come out and spread the gospel among Somali Muslims.
Yeah, brother, even Somalis who live in the West, there's some of them who've been here like 28 years, 25 years, and never heard the gospel. For my case, I was in Europe 14 years. I never hear any Christian coming to me and sharing the gospel with me. Jesus saved me through a dream. But my husband got saved 4 years later because he wanted to take me back to Islam. He was debating with me and wanted to take me back to Islam. But thank God, because of finding in Jesus or Muhammad with David Wood and the brothers with him, David and Sam Shamoun doing the Jesus and Muhammad. So it helped me a lot. So there's a lot of almost millions or more Somalis who are in diaspora or Christian country, but sadly they cannot hear the gospel, because faith comes by hearing the word of Jesus. Because Somalis, they always have one area. We all live same area.
Yes.
We all live in one city. Like now in US, we have some places like Minneapolis, you have big Somali community there. But the Somalis, because they're all controlling each other, and even Europe, in the UK, we always have one area. All the Somalis are living same area. So the imams and the sheikhs and the neighbors are watching one another. So you cannot even talk to Christians. So the Christians, the Western, they will help you any way you can imagine. They will help you whatever you ask, but no one is sharing the gospel with the Muslims, especially Somalis, because I think people are afraid of our people, because we are not the easiest people to share the gospel, but also we are controlling each other and policing each other, and it's not open door, it's nothing. So because of that, Shin and I, whenever we meet the Somalis, when we share in the gospel on the street or on our social media, they will say, we've been in Europe or the Western 25 years. What happened with the churches? Why they don't come? Why you, who are new believers, who left Islam and now ex-Muslims, now you're Christian, why you have to come and share Jesus with me? What about the church? Why they're not coming to us? So we need all the Christians in the West, please, go and share the gospel, because faith comes by hearing the word of Jesus.
Yeah,
We need to share the gospel with Somalis.
The Christians in the West, unfortunately, they've been taught that it's wrong to do that, that it's rude, that it's interfering with other people's culture, all this nonsense. But anyway, this is your address on YouTube, Somali Christian TV ex-Muslims.
Yes, yeah. That's what we have. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
Robert. Hey, Robert,
yes.
I'll send you the details of their site and stuff, and then you can put them in the description box after the show,
Absolutely.
and then people can have them. But yeah, I just want to say, guys, for those of you who are concerned about Somali and look at all the barriers around reaching Somalis with the gospel, as far as I can tell at this moment, the best thing you can do is follow Shino and Shania and support their work.
Oh, thank you.
brother.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well,
brother.
thank you both. It's very wonderful to meet you, even over electronics. And
Yes.
Nice to meet you, brother. We love you. God bless you. We've been following you a long time, and your books help for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank God, and thank you very much. Very nice to meet you. Love you as well. And
Yes.
we'll sign off now. Until then, next week I'm on the road again. But when we come back here with more Jihad,
Yeah.
we'll be back a couple weeks. Until then, pray, hope, and don't worry.